Afternoon and good evening, wherever you are in our beautiful world today. My name's Sophia from Sacred You, that just about everyone knows, but the person that you don't know, the beautiful woman that I have the honor of chatting with today is the wonderful Elizabeth, who's joining us all the way from the other side of the world. Considering I'm in Australia and Elizabeth, you are in Lawrence in the USA. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a real honor. I'm excited to be able to talk to you. Really, really, really excited.
Well, thank you, Sophia. I'm thrilled to be here, and I live literally in the center of the United States. The geographic center of the United States is just a block or two down the road from where I live in Lawrence, Kansas. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful. All right. So what I'd like to know, well, I want to hear your story. I want to hear it from you, but let me just introduce you a little bit to all our listeners. So, Elizabeth, you're a stress management and historical trauma specialist. I love that. Who uses trauma-trained and yoga-informed addiction recovery coaching, ancestral clearing. Definitely want to talk more about that. Compassionate inquiry and yoga to help people with your healing. All right, you healed from over 40 years of chronic pain, including anxiety, panic attacks, and addiction. You now guide others to unleash their healing power, find freedom from suffering, and live a thriving life. And you're also a best-selling author, which we're going to hear about too. And all that, Elizabeth, really touches my heart, like you're speaking my language. To be able to heal yourself from chronic pain. Love to know more, know how you did it. So I said, Elizabeth, welcome. And tell us about you. Tell us about your journey. How did you get to where you are now?
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I didn't get here by myself, that's for sure. There was no I healed myself. This was a project. There were lots of guides along the way, and I'm so grateful for all of them. Probably those that know about it, and some that didn't. We were talking before we started here that when we put something like this out, we don't necessarily know everybody that listens, and I'm one of those people that benefited from other people putting their stories out there. So I was born. I was actually born with a closed pyloric valve, which is the valve that opens and allows the stomach contents to go into the stomach. That was closed, and my mother went into a very deep depression right after labor, after birth, after she gave birth to me. So we separated. I had to go into, an incubator, which they kind of didn't have them really old. They didn't have NICUs back then. And my pediatrician at the time, because they don't have surgery for this kind of a condition, she actually put my mattress on a 45-degree angle, and gravity opened that valve over about a period of 2 weeks. But there was that was a beginning of really, oh my God, I'm not going to make it, kind of in the nervous system, right? And where's my mother? Right? What happened, right? So that kind of started life. My mom was bipolar, which was undiagnosed at the time, and she treated herself with alcohol to kind of numb that. So that created a very unstable emotional environment for me. And unbeknownst to me at the time, that really created a chronic pain situation emotionally. I didn't understand. Chronic pain, will just define it here. Chronic pain is any pain that's felt for 15 days or out of 30 for 3 months or more. Any pain, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, it all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts. Yes. So the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart. So that's kind of a revelation to a lot of people, thinking it's just physical. It's kind of not. When I was 14, I fell off a horse and landed on a rock and broke my fifth lumbar in two, front to back, and the front part of it slipped forward. And I got up and walked away from that accident, and I didn't, because I got up and walked away, it hurt, but I got up and walked away, and I didn't realize it hurt myself as badly as I did. So we didn't even get an x-ray for another 7 years. When it really finally became, the pain got to be like, oh, this is ridiculous. I can't even walk stairs anymore. And they said, oh, this is an old injury. And I went, aha, now I know what that was, right? So, but the fact that I got up and walked away from that accident and didn't, like say to my dad, hey, that tells you something about how I was already attenuated, as we say, accommodated. My nervous system was used to chronic pain.
Yes.
Right. So it was just kind of next thing, right? I just kept,
just another thing. Yes.
It's what we do, right? 7 years. So by the time I was 28, that break became unstable, and the doctors were concerned that I would, that bone would continue to slip. It's 80% slipped into my pelvis now, but held with hardware. And, but it took 4 surgeries to get that sorted out. And the pain got worse each time, and in between surgeries and after, and the only answer the doctors had for me was opiates and anti-anxiety.
Yes.
And they said I would be in level 7 out of 10 pain for the rest of my life, and I'd be in a wheelchair when I was 40.
Yeah.
And
I hear that.
You hear that. I mean, it's just like, wow. But I had a science background, and I knew paradigms shift in science, and I knew they were looking within this framework. So I was trained as a research scientist, so I kind of understand the territory a little bit. And I was like, okay, they're operating in a scientific paradigm. They shift, and they're telling me more about the limitation of their model than they are telling me about the human body's ability to heal. So I looked to a wider vision than the scientific model. So we live in the all it is, and we heal in the all it is, and science can only talk about the part of the all it is that it can observe, measure, and describe. You see? So I had to look at I knew I had to look at a wider perspective. And that's what kept me going all those years. That was 31 years until I actually found a doctor who actually understood the nature of chronic pain and how to heal it. Meaning, chronic pain actually changes the way that the brain perceives pain, and the brain actually acts. We get a lot of confusion in the brain. You'll recognize this if you've had chronic, because it sounds like you had this version of this. Brain fog, confusion. I can't think straight. I can't remember what I did 5 minutes ago or 3 seconds ago, that kind of thing. And a pronounced negative mind. It's all your fault. It's all my fault. All this, just like everything's bad. That's what chronic pain does to the brain. It creates this momentum that's negative and very stressful. The stress response gets out of balance and gets stuck in the on position. It's supposed to go on and off. It's supposed to come back to balance. It doesn't do that in chronic pain. So Dr. Peter Prescott, he wrote a book, Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind-Body Approach.
Wow.
He left the book. He passed away in 2016, but he left this book with us, which is the doctory, researchery explanation of chronic pain. And then I wrote the follow-up book, which is really the patient manual to it, The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. So this is kind of a nice set. I worked with Dr. Peter. He's the one that helped me, guided me to heal. And he was like, he didn't want to look at my x-rays or my records per se. He knew I was on medication. He knew what it was doing to me. He knew I had chronic pain. He knew what that was doing to me. And he said, I don't need to look at your records. I need to know who you are. And I was like, dude, who are you? And where have you been all my life? Like, wow. Somebody actually saw me instead of just me as a back, me as a broken spine, right? So, he brought in beautiful, um, beautiful, powerful teachings around, if you're judging your pain as bad, you're creating your own, you're helping to, you're amplifying your pain right there. His first question to me when I got into his classroom, right in Pain Track, he said, what are you doing? It wasn't just me, the whole room. What are you doing to contribute to your pain? And I was sitting there minding my own business. This is my first moment in his classroom, thinking, and I've been in a lot of classrooms, and thinking to myself, dude, you are in a room full of chronic pain sufferers, and you're asking that question? You want to get yourself killed? Like I was so sure all of us were in victim mode, right? Because I always thought the pain was doing it to me. He took me from victimhood right into empowerment with that question, because he said, he made me realize there was something that, if there was something I was doing that was contributing to the pain, now I have power.
Yes. And isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing when that happens, when that moment happens? I hear you, Elizabeth, you're speaking my language, because it's the same, right? Also, chronic pain. And the more we think about the pain, the more we blame ourselves, blame other people, the more we say, poor me, I'm in all this pain, whatever it is I'm in this, the more pain we have and more issues we have. But so thank you for sharing that.
It's huge. One of the interesting things, when Peter passed away before I started getting into trauma training and really got into that, one of the things that happens there is I would not have been able to take that in, what he said, if he hadn't created a safe space for me where my nervous system felt calm enough to take that in, right? Because in chronic pain, we're so hypervigilant and we're so dysregulated. The nervous system just wants to either shut down or run or something, right? Get busy, right? It's just not calm, and you can't think straight in that space, and you can't connect. So creating a safe space was a huge, that was the first thing he did. We have to have a safe space here. And you could feel the temperature in the room just calm down as this guy it was really interesting. So really important to understand the safety factor in order to even get to the part where you can go, oh, I actually have a role in this. Right. Yeah. So important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Would you like to share some of the things, like how did you get out of that? Besides, the first step is the realization, right? Which is great, which is a major, major thing. But then what happened? Tell us about your journey of being a victim of chronic pain. Right.
Well, the first thing I really had to do was I had to get off the medicine.
Yes.
That was causing, and we could spend 15 minutes on that, but that wasn't doing me any favors. That there's nothing about opiate or benzodiazepine that heals the changes that the brain undergoes because of chronic pain. That's the thumbnail on it, right? So number one, clear the body. Yes. Number two, understand your role in chronic pain. 3, it's like I was judging my pain as bad for my whole life. And so it's like, wait a minute, pain is information. Pain is not good or bad. It's information in the system. So, but that completely shifts everything, right? Instead of me trying to push it away or change it or any of those things, it's just information. Now, Elizabeth, what are you going to do with it? Again, a very empowering move, right? The other thing we did was he taught me Qigong. He taught a very gentle but very powerful Qigong form as I was kind of coming out of that detox and medicine detox. And I had been on these medicines for 31 years, and I had been on the last 15 were fentanyl and Ativan. So, this was, a huge addiction problem and a big toxicity in the body. So I was pretty weak after, 10 days after detoxing in a hospital bed and then getting into his classroom. But that Qigong form was just enough movement in a 20-minute period in just the right way that it helped start to clear a lot of the stuck energy in the body. And it was very interesting. I also already had a yoga practice, so I continued to do yoga afterwards. He also brought in an aspect of what he called adversity therapy, which is really kind of just looking at your trauma and helping you re-script, kind of giving you an opportunity to re-script what happened. Oh, this thing happened to me. Well, what else happened there? Right? Kind of things. That was very helpful. Meaning, oh, this thing happened to me. And the way we would re-script that, because there I'm a victim, the way we would re-script that is so that it's a healing thing is, oh, this thing happened to me. And look how I continue to move forward into my life in spite of it,
Yes.
Or maybe because of it.
Yes. Yeah. Look at the lessons that it taught me.
Yes. Looking at the gift.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a different concept. It's such a different attitude to have, rather than, look at the poor me. I'm in so much pain. And to be able to turn that around and go, well, okay, my body's experiencing this pain, this situation, but it's made me the person who I am.
Yes. And it's, what possible, how, what are the gifts there? I was just sitting in front of one of my yoga teachers this morning online, and he brought in this line. And I was so grateful. He was talking about Saturn energy. And he said, illness, disease, sadness, grief, death, these are not bad things. These are things. And these are things in our life that help us open our heart. And I'd never heard anybody say that, but it sounded like, Dr. Peter was in the room. It sounded like he was channeling Dr. Peter. It was great. So, it's kind of like, what is our, just like with my doctors, they said I wasn't going to heal. I challenged their perspective, right?
Yes.
Peter was challenging our perspective. He was trying to get us to look through different eyes. So very helpful. So those are some things. The other thing that was very helpful was ancestral clearing. John Newton of Health Beyond Belief was a wellness practitioner in that program that Peter offered. And that program was only there for 3 years, and John was only there for 2. And the fact that I was even there at all, that I happened to get in that window, was like, I was like, how does that even work? I was like so blessed. So the ancestral clearing piece was very important. And I was so impressed with it, with the modality that I, especially as a science person, it was just like, what is happening with this thing? He just had us read a short prayer in English. I knew about Sanskrit power words. I knew about that, but I didn't know about English and the power of prayer at that time in my life. And I had my science hat on when I first had the experience of ancestral clearing in Dr. Peter's, program. And I'm like, I felt the room shift, and I felt my pain start to dissolve, and I'm my science hat is on, and my mind is like, what's happening in this room? I know something's happening here. Is it repeatable? Can we test for it? and does he teach this? It's like, I was ready to go find funding for this thing. It was so impressive. So I went and took the first practitioner training I could which was about 6 months later. And I've been a practitioner, an ancestral clearing practitioner since like May of 2014, I think was when I went in, took my training.
Okay. And people can see you for that no matter where they are?
Oh, yes, all over the planet.
Ancestral clearing, because I know that's also very, very powerful. We don't realize how much we're carrying from our ancestors.
Oh, I
And
know.
when we're able to clear it within ourselves, we're actually clearing it within them as well, and for future generations too. So
yes,
definitely, absolutely.
Yes, the quantum physicists tell us, though, they tell us in the present moment we can access past, present, and future all at once, which is why ancestral clearing works.
Yeah. So I'm putting your links in the comments for everyone who's watching below all the videos. So do click on those links. Check out Elizabeth's website, and even if do you have just a chat? People can contact you and just have a chat to start with.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. A free 15-minute consultation. You can grab that on my website. Absolutely.
Good.
Yep. Be glad to talk to anybody.
Absolutely. So tell me, Elizabeth, now that you've gone through that journey, right? You've been able to heal with, clear your past, clear the things that have been holding you back, clear that, that chronic pain, stuff like that. Now, can I ask you, what motivates you now? What motivates you to get out of bed in the morning?
Oh, well, a couple of things. One, I remember being in the hospital bed again, many years ago, still in chronic pain and after surgery, and a nurse came in and so sweet to me. And then she's walking out of the room, and I looked at her and I thought to myself, when, not if, but when I heal from this chronic pain, I hope I can help people the way people have helped me. So that was one motivation right there. Another one was that when I was in Dr. Peter's program, people went to 20 of us went to his program in the afternoon, and the other 80 people on campus in the center where I was went to relapse school because it was an addiction treatment center. And and I wasn't going to relapse school. Pardon me, I wasn't getting any relapse education. So I asked my counselor, well, what about that? And she said, well, there's an 80% relapse rate in the first year. And I was like, and in my mind, I was I don't like the odds. I'm doomed. That's not good. And the second thing I thought was, what's wrong with the model we're using? Because if we've got an 80% relapse rate, we need to change the model, right? That we're working. So I vowed in that moment that I would come out when I got out of treatment and got myself sorted out, that I would help move the needle on that one. So that's another motivation. The other one is there's absolutely nothing, you'll relate to this. There's absolutely nothing that compares to having a client come to me who's completely dysregulated, very concerned, nervous system's wrapped up like a top. And within 3 minutes with a very simple breath practice, to see her just her calm down and realize that her nervous system remembers how to calm down after having been so wound up for so long that you forget. Knowing there's hope, that's huge. Knowing that I can be of help to someone, and take them from kind of that space of I don't even think my body remembers. I don't even remember how to do this. To oh my God, I know how to. This is possible again. Yeah. That's I just don't think there's anything better.
No, there isn't.
What an honor to be in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you ever so much for sharing that. And I just really would like to take a moment just to honor you, to really honor, first of all, for sharing your story, sharing your journey, and now to be in a space where you're able to help others. It's not easy to do that. So just really thank you. And the world is a much better place for having you here. And I'd like to thank you for coming into our community and sharing that journey. And I'd really like to invite you to come back because I want to know more. I really, really, really want to know more. But before we wrap up, can I ask you, is there any other question that I could have asked? And how would have you answered that?
Oh, well, the question would be, if there's one thing that you want people to know coming out of this talk, what would it be? And that would be that the greatest healer in your life lives within you.
Wow.
Yeah. Doctors can set a bone and stitch up a wound, and nurses can bandage things and all that, but they can't tell the body how to heal. Only the body knows how to do that. Right?
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to use that as as a motto, as a quote, and it's really, really true because I've also experienced it. So I just want to acknowledge you again and acknowledge that the greatest healer that we have is within us. We are our own doctors. The body knows what it needs to heal. Absolutely, totally. All we have to do is listen to it and not take all the drugs, as you've experienced as well, that totally and absolutely blocks that intuitive healing ability. So
they have their, an opiate has its place. I can understand taking an opiate if you're in so much pain you can't rest.
Yes.
But that doesn't last for more than 36, 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? With meditation, you can mediate that. So yeah, it's not like I'm not dissing medicine. I'm just dissing how we're using it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much easier in today's world to take a pill rather than to go within and find the cause of the pain and to heal the pain. People, we live in a world of instant gratification now. And I just love it. And I'm so grateful, really, really grateful that there's people like you in our world, Elizabeth. When I talk to you, there is so much hope for the world. So much hope. So for everyone who's listening, whether it's live or on the replay, reach out to Elizabeth, check out her website, reach out and have a chat and grab a copy of your book and stuff and read that. I certainly will be. I'll be looking for it too. So thank you, Elizabeth, so much for joining us today. I'm really honoured. And I do hope that you come back very, very soon.
Well, thank you so much, Sophia. This is wonderful.